have our second guest coming on the show. Speedy, hit it. We are now talking to top-ranked Arkansas high school tennis player Khushi Patil. What's going on, Khushi?
Not much. Thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely, man. You know what it is I've never interviewed any tennis players. I've at the U.S. Open a couple of years ago. I was at the U.S. Open. I personally, face to face, I interviewed Serena and Venus Williams, but I never really did it on a radio show. So you're my first tennis player since I started this network 6 years ago that I've had on the show, and I'm doing an interview. So you should feel special.
I am. I'm very honored.
Well, Jillian speaks very high praise of you and who you are as an athlete. So tell us a little bit about yourself. What made you start to play tennis? I mean, there's so many other sports that you could play as a young kid. Track and field, you could play volleyball. What pushed you to play tennis?
Well, when I was a little kid, I actually started playing the violin, and that was not an interest of mine, and I was taking tennis lessons at the time, just like as a side hobby. But then I started watching tennis on TV, and I got inspired by these great athletes, so that inspired me to become an athlete and play tennis competitively. So that's how I started playing tennis. It was about 10 years ago when I was 5, because I turned 15 soon. So yeah, it was just inspiration from great athletes on TV.
So, who are some of your influences when in the sport of tennis? Obviously, it's more of an international game. Obviously, a lot of the American tennis players, there's some good ones, but it's more of an international game. So, who did you grow up watching, both maybe as a lesser-known one and a one that's popular?
Well, for me, my number one inspiration in tennis is definitely Serena Williams. She's really inspired young women to come up and play and just, not be afraid of what they can achieve. Her sportsmanship, her great fighting spirit in Grand Slams, even when she's down, really touched my heart. It was something that's very important to me, and she was one of the important players who greatly inspired me to play, and she was mainly somebody I grew up watching.
We are talking to, let me put this up over here. We are talking to top-ranked Arkansas high school tennis player Khushi Patil. Now, where did you get your name? You have a very unique name. I have a very unique name. Where did you get your name? What is your nationality?
Well, my parents are Indian, and they came here in, I think, the early 2000s. Khushi means happiness in an Indian language called Hindi. So, yeah, my nationality and ethnicity is Indian.
Mm-hmm. So, again, with that in mind, knowing that you came from that kind of family, again, it's more of a European sport. Was tennis the first thing you got into, or did you get into maybe some sports that are more popular in India first? Because they definitely have a lot with field hockey, with cricket, with rugby, stuff like that. What did you get into that first, or was tennis always your first love?
I didn't get into any other sports first. It was mainly tennis. Tennis is also really popular in India. There are a lot of great, well-known athletes who are tennis players that come from India, so it's always been tennis for me.
As you guys know, we are talking to top-ranked Arkansas high school tennis player Khushi Patil. Now, Khushi, I'm actually a huge tennis fan. I follow Wimbledon over the years. I follow all the big tournaments. I grew up an Andre Agassi fan, a Pete Sampras fan, so I know tennis. I also played tennis my senior year of high school. I played almost every single sport. I was trying to find a sport that I think I could compete in and try to figure it out. I played second in singles and third in doubles in my school. And I was the first time I ever played tennis. I watch some of you kids and some of you young adults, some of you young tennis superstars that are 15 years old, they're in Wimbledon, and they're hitting the ball over 100 miles per hour. How hard is your serve right now?
Well, at the moment, I'm injured, but when I was playing a couple months ago, my fastest serve ever was about 105 miles per hour. That's like a flat first serve.
Yeah, because I know Serena Williams, her hardest was, I think, 143 miles per hour, something like that. So it's incredible how hard you young ladies hit the ball. And as you get older and your technique gets better, the way they hit the ball over the net, they put spin on the ball, and how you have to get to the net and move around all over the court and try to get to the ball. It's one of the hardest sports to play. It really is. People always talk about how hard it is to play football and play the quarterback position, how hard it is to play the goaltending position. There is no team, besides if you're playing doubles, there is no team that's going to help you hit the ball over the net. You got to use your speed, your quickness, your wittiness, and your cat-like reflexes to get to that ball. So I think it's incredible. It really is.
Do you have a preference on playing singles or doubles? And also, to a lot of the fans that might not know the sport as well, what are some of the biggest differences strategy-wise and conceptually in terms of the way you train for that?
So in singles, as you know, you're by yourself playing another person on the opposite side of the court. And on doubles, you have a partner. So there's essentially 4 people on the court in doubles. In singles, you basically have to rely on yourself, and the shot making is different. It's more of a baseline rally. So that means you aren't, in the court. You're standing where the baseline is, and it's just ball striking back and forth. And in doubles, it's more of a net play. You are it's typically all 4 players are closer to the net, and they have rallies that consist of volleys and overheads. So volleys are like when you're at the net and you hit the ball in the air. There are some intense and exhilarating volley rallies. So strategic-wise, in doubles, you have to have more faster reflexes than in singles, because at singles there isn't as much net play. But in singles, you definitely have to have confidence, and your mindset needs to be positive, because you're only relying on yourself and there is nobody out there to tell you what to do. So it's just, you have that reassurance in doubles with your partner, but in singles you just have to hype yourself up.
We are talking to top-ranked Arkansas high school tennis player Khushi Patil. Now, Khushi, do you have plans in the future playing professional tennis? Is that your goal? Do you want to play for Team USA in the Olympics? Where do you see yourself moving forward in the sport?
I unfortunately have had a lot of injuries over the past, so that crushed my dreams of going pro. But at the moment, I would like to play D1 college and hopefully get a scholarship. It would be a great opportunity, to play for Team USA at the Olympics, but it's kind of unrealistic right now because of everything I'm going through with my injuries. And I've actually had 2 wrist surgeries as well. So it's kind of a major setback, but I feel like the D1 college goal is something really to look forward to.
It seems like very often in women's tennis, especially, there's a lot of parity with a lot of upsets in recent times. It's not like the men's, where it seems like a top 5 seed is winning a major tournament every year. There seems to be a lot of parity. Do you think that's a combination? What do you think that's a combination of? Do you think there's a lot more international talent than we don't realize, and even American talent now has come up into the system as well for tennis?
There's definitely a lot of talent that we are unaware of, because we've seen lower-ranked players in major Grand Slams come up to the quarterfinals and semifinals and beating high-ranked players. So I'm really happy that there are, lesser-known players becoming stars. Like, for example, 2 years ago, Naomi Osaka, she basically wasn't ranked high, and she won the U.S. Open. So that gave a lot of reassurance and, confidence to players who aren't as well known as higher ranked players to fight and one day, make it to the finals. So I am really happy about the international and maybe national talent, because there are a lot of players we are unaware of, and, we're just waiting for their big break.
Now, Khushi, I heard you're a big fan of a particular TV show, a Netflix show. It's called, if I'm not mistaken, Wynonna Earp. We interviewed, what's his name again?
Bo Smith.
Bo Smith. I'm sorry. We've interviewed a lot of people in the last couple of weeks.
Great.
So. Bo is really, really nice guy, really down to earth. We'd love to get Bo on the show again. And we heard you're a big Wynonna Earp. Tell us a little bit about how you found out about this show, and what is the show? What makes the show so important to you in your life right now?
Definitely. So I came across the show from a fan edit on YouTube because there are a lot of people who post edits on YouTube. And the show is primarily a supernatural sci-fi western show. And the thing that made me drawn to it is the amount of feminist power. There are incredible female leads and roles in that show, and I'm very passionate about women's rights. So that drew me to it, and the fan base and the cast, they're a very safe space, the fandom and everything. And honestly, it's just the environment and the vibes and positivity the show radiates that, makes me really feel safe in this community.